Hey guys, tonight we're crawling into a place where most soldiers refuse to go. Imagine it. Dense jungle all around, heat pressing into your skin, and a patch of disturbed soil barely visible under some carefully arranged leaves. You crouch low. No turning back now. You lift the trapdoor, slide inside, and seal it shut above you. Instantly, the air gets colder, quieter, heavier. Welcome to Vietnam, January 1967. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and your local time in the comments. I love knowing who's drifting off with me and where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're Tommy Rivera now, tunnel rat, barely 20, just tall enough to duck under every doorway, but short enough to squeeze where other men can't. Your rifle's worthless here, too loud, too long. You've got your M1911 pistol, sure, but it's more of a last resort. No, in these tunnels, silence is survival, which is why you prefer the worn, oil dark blade strapped to your ankle. Your father carried it through France in 1944. You carry it here, hoping for the same luck, or at least fewer regrets. You inhale shallowly. The air smells like dirt, sweat, and something faintly metallic. You inch forward on elbows and knees, careful not to brush anything overhead. You know what's waiting if you do. Bamboo triggers, snake release toggles, pits that aren't quite as empty as they seem. You've seen what happens to guys who move too fast. They don't move again. Above ground, it's all helicopters and strategy briefings. Below, it's spider holes and secrets. The Viet Cong don't just hide here, they live here. Eat here, treat wounds, hold prisoners, plan attacks. This isn't just shelter, it's infrastructure. A subterranean city dug by hand with near-invisible logic. Tonight, your mission is razor thin. Find the control chamber, steal whatever plans are inside, and get back out without dying horribly. You've been in tunnels before. Not like this one. This entrance sloped down faster than expected, and the walls are tighter, more freshly dug. Your fingers graze what feels like chicken wire embedded into the dirt, typical reinforcement technique. The iron-rich clay around here hardens like cement once dry, making the walls nearly bomb-proof. That's why carpet bombing didn't work. You could turn the whole jungle to ash, and still these tunnels would hold. Just ahead, the passage curves left, barely wide enough to turn your shoulders. You feel your heartbeat against the soil. Slow, measured. Even your fear knows better than a shout. Then, there it is. Your first test. A sliver of bamboo lies across the floor like a twig out of place. But you know better. That stick connects to a toggle buried in the ceiling. And up there, movement. Subtle but real. You freeze. Narrow your eyes. Vietnamese pit vipers. Tiny, silent, and venomous enough to shut your liver down in under 30 minutes. The trap is ingenious. Step on the trigger, and a latch swings open, raining serpents down like cursed spaghetti. Historians still argue whether traps like these were standardized Viet Cong tactics or locally improvised terror devices. Doesn't matter. Either way, you're not stepping on it. You lower yourself flat, arms forward, chest grinding against the earth. One elbow, then the next. Every breath counts. You slide forward just inches at a time until 3, 2, 1. You're past it. And suddenly you realize that was probably the least creative trap you'll see tonight. The deeper you go, the more layered the Viet Cong defenses become. It's not just about killing invaders. It's about slowing them down, making them question every foot of soil. Every sound, every shadow. You don't even feel the sweat anymore. Your shirt's soaked, but your body's adapted. Fear has taken over your metabolism. Finally, a faint shift in light. You reach your first chamber. It's cramped, maybe 4 feet wide, 5 feet tall. A rat's living room. You can crouch here, but not stand. Low wooden crates line the walls, filled with rice, bandages, and polished rounds of ammunition. Most of it wrapped in banana leaves, wax paper, or whatever was on hand. If this was above ground, you'd call it pantry. down here, it's more logistics. Fringe theory? Some believe Viet Cong supply chains were so efficient in tunnels that they could survive months without surfacing. It's debated, but tonight, you're seeing the proof yourself. You spot a blood-stained tunic in the corner. Could mean a medic was working here earlier, or someone didn't make it out. Either way, it's abandoned now. Quiet. You crouch by the crates, listen hard. Nothing. But that doesn't mean you're alone. This is how the war looks when it's not lit by napalm. When it's not broadcast with voiceovers and ticker counts. It's crawling, creeping, listening. It's deciding whether a stick is just a stick or your last mistake. You rest for maybe 10 seconds. Long enough to note the clay dirt texture again. It sticks to your fingers like dried paint. High iron content. Tough to dig, but perfect for permanence. You wonder how long this room has existed. Weeks? Years? The war has been going on so long now, nobody really keeps track. Dates blur. So do reasons. You inch forward toward the next tunnel mouth, steeling yourself for whatever fresh horror the Viet Cong have engineered. You know this much. Every step forward means deeper layers of purpose. Living quarters, hospitals, weapons caches, eventually the command center. But for now, you slide your knife from its sheath and press ahead, because the tunnel is sloping downward again. And that means you're getting closer. The tunnel starts to narrow again, this time pressing against your shoulders like a dirt vise. You angle your body sideways just enough to continue slithering forward. Your hips scrape the clay walls, and pebbles tumble loose under your knees. It's like crawling through a cracked pipe, except the pipe is alive with traps, and it might decide to collapse just to spite you. Claustrophobia isn't optional down here. You either get over it or you never enter at all. Tunnel rats like you have a saying. If you're still thinking, you're already dead. That's not about recklessness. It's about instinct. Every move has to come from your gut. Analyze too much, and the trap springs before you even reach a conclusion. You stop suddenly. A subtle scratching sound filters through the dirt ahead. Faint, repetitive, and low to the ground. Not boots. Not digging. Rats? Maybe. You hope it's just rats. The Viet Cong share their tunnels with them. But then again, they also weaponize them. Fringe rumor. Some claim certain sections of tunnel were laced with poisoned bait to create aggressive rats. Not to kill, just to bite and infect. Historians still argue whether that's fact or soldiers' folklore. You shuffle forward a bit more, blade still in hand, when something catches your eye. A thread stretched taut across the tunnel. It glimmers just enough in the flashlight's edge, positioned ankle high. You nearly crawled right through it. Its fishing line, almost invisible in the dirt, but strong enough to yank a pin. You trace it to the right wall, where a rusted soda can dangles just inside a narrow cubby. Classic noise trap. Pull the wire, drop the can, trigger the bell. The whole system's designed not to kill you, but to wake someone who will. You slide under the line like a man flattening himself for his own funeral and keep crawling, hoping nothing else is waiting just beyond the next breath. Another sharp turn. This one forces you to backpedal briefly, twist, and reorient your limbs like a contortionist who failed anatomy class. The tunnel was never meant for efficiency. It was meant for confusion. The Viet Cong built false walls, misdirected dead ends, and intentional choke points into the design. Not by accident, by strategy. You finally reach a small open section, just tall enough to kneel. You stretch your back, slowly, carefully, as every vertebra protests. And that's when you notice a strange panel in the wall. A small wood-framed square, nailed into the tunnel like a cupboard door. You tap it once. Hollow. Gingerly, you pry it open. Inside is a small stash, dried rice, a stack of neatly rolled bandages, and a rusted combat knife wrapped in cloth. Someone's emergency pack. A soldier's final fallback. Whoever left it here didn't expect to be back soon. Or at all. You grab nothing. Not out of respect, out of caution. Because in these tunnels, even a gift can bite. The knife could be poisoned. The food could be bait. You close the panel and keep moving. Soon, the tunnel levels out. The air feels thicker here, almost stale. Your breath fogs briefly in front of you, then vanishes. And then, you hear it. A soft whoosh, rhythmic, Faint, unmistakable. Breathing, not yours. You freeze. It's ahead of you. Close, but not active breathing. Sleeping? Maybe. Maybe not. But you know one thing. Guns are not an option here. The echo of a single shot would ripple through the tunnel system like thunder. You'd be dead before the body hit the floor. You draw the knife again. Flex your fingers. You crawl another foot. And another. Now you see it. A figure, low against the tunnel wall. Bare feet. Uniform. Rifle slung over the chest. Sleeping. Or pretending. Your brain lights up like a faulty switchboard. What do? Go around. Can you? Kill. Is it even necessary? In the end, you slide past without a sound. Close enough to count the folds in his uniform. Close enough to smell him. Earth, sweat, and something burnt. Close enough to see the twitch of a dream flicker across his eye. You don't breathe again until you're 50 feet beyond him. There's a saying among tunnel rats. Noise is a confession. Tonight, you stay innocent. Soon, the walls grow tighter again, but the ground shifts, becomes uneven. You pause. The soil here isn't just dry. It's compacted with something. You dig your fingers in, pull a chunk loose. Wood. You scrape at it a bit more. Bamboo slats. You're crawling over a floor that's not natural. It's a man-made covering. You freeze, because underneath bamboo in these tunnels is usually, or a pit. Sure enough, to the left of the tunnel, a subtle opening waits, just wide enough for a man's body. You pee in. Hollow. Deep. And at the bottom, punji sticks. Sharpened, angled bamboo tips smeared with what looks like black sludge. You know what that is. Human waste. The infection's the real killer, not the wound. Historians still argue whether the use of feces was widespread strategy or localized horror. But you're not here to solve debates. You're here to survive them. You edge across the bamboo slats, careful to spread your weight. Each inch feels like a negotiation with gravity. The bamboo creaks but holds. Once clear, you collapse against the next tane, sucking in a silent breath of relief. Then, ahead, a faint light glows from a slit in the wall. A lantern? A vent? No idea. But it casts just enough of a halo to see the chamber ahead. And that's when you spot it. A figure, seated, facing away. Knees drawn up, unmoving. You grip your knife tighter, crawl low. But as you draw closer, you realize it's a dummy. A decoy. You glance around, instinct bristling. And behind you, something shifts in the dirt. You whip around, knife raised, but there's nothing. Just a faint shifting in the dirt, like it exhaled behind you and then decided to vanish. You wait. Still, eyes wide, breath locked. Maybe it was just the tunnel settling. Or maybe someone's crawling behind you, slow enough to let paranoia do the damage. You press forward. Every inch of tunnel feels like a dare now. And just as you're starting to recalibrate your heartbeat, you spot something new. A narrow break in the wall. Not a turn. A slit. A squeeze. A hidden passage. You hesitate, but only briefly. Sliding through it feels like entering a ribcage. The clay walls flex inward like the tunnel is trying to hold you in place. The passage deadens after about 10 feet, but it opens into something wider. Taller. You pop your head in cautiously. It's a room. Small. Oval-shaped. Just big enough for maybe 3 people. And it's filled with traps. This is not a mistake. This is a storage room for terror. Rows of sharpened bamboo stakes lean against the wall. Some long, some short, all cut with clean, practiced hands. Their tips are darkened, either from fire or something worse. You remember the stories. Punji stakes soaked in chili oil or rotted meat to ensure maximum infection. Pain wasn't enough. It had to linger. Next to the bamboo, a shallow basket holds tiny glass jars with cork tops. You shake one gently. A yellow dust swirls inside. Maybe sulfur. Maybe worse. The Viet Cong were known to experiment with irritants, homemade compounds that choked airways or inflamed skin. It wasn't chemical warfare by Geneva standards, but it didn't need to be. It just had to hurt. In one corner, a stack of what looks like flattened tin cans, strung together with string. You nudge one. The whole pile trembles with metallic menace. These aren't supplies. These are alerts. Pull the string. and the cans rattle like an angry spirit. Not fatal, but they don't need to be. That sound would echo through the tunnel like a starter pistol. The Viet Cong don't use speed. They use readiness. And then there's the wall drawings. Scratched into the hardened clay with nails or bone or something equally unnerving. Symbols, tallies, a sketch of what might be the tunnel system. And one crude carving of an American helmet split in half. You're not sure if this room was meant as a trap, a trophy room, or just a workshop. Maybe all three. Historians still debate whether rooms like this were standard across tunnel systems or merely improvised by local units. You're too deep in it to argue. You just know it wasn't meant for you to find. You back out, careful not to bump a single stake, and return to the main tunnel. Ahead, the dirt shifts again, this time downward. A gradual slope. You're descending. That means you're progressing. You're moving closer to the operational levels where intel might actually be stored. But it also means fewer exits, fewer ways out. The air changes subtly, more humid, more still. And that's when you start noticing the layout's rhythm. The tunnel isn't random. Every 50 feet or so, there's a turn, a chamber, a trigger point. That's the genius of it. Rhythm makes invaders predictable. The Viet Cong knew how far a man would crawl before relaxing, how deep he'd go before thinking the worst had passed. They built their traps into that rhythm. Sure enough, just as your shoulders begin to drop slightly, you hear a soft snap beneath your palm. You freeze. You look down slowly. A piece of bamboo, hollow and neatly scored, was embedded in the dirt. You pressed it just enough to trigger the wire buried beneath it. You stare upward. A ceiling panel twitches. Your hand finds the wall. You shove yourself sideways, flat, eyes still up. The panel jerks open, and two long, thin shapes drop from the darkness. You flinch, blade raised, but they hit the floor with a dull slap. Pit vipers. Slender, greenish-brown, and very much alive. One slithers toward the wall. The other curls mid-path, tongue flicking. You don't move. You barely breathe. Snakes weren't meant to kill quickly. They were meant to distract, to terrify. And if they bite you, well, you'll spend the next 30 minutes deciding whether to crawl or just lie down and wait. You inch backward, pressing along the wall, keeping both reptiles in your peripheral vision. It's a slow dance of shadow and instinct. Eventually, they vanish into a crack in the dirt. You keep moving, quieter than ever. The next chamber you reach looks different. It's larger. The ceiling's higher. There's evidence of long-term use here. Ash in the corners, hand-dug storage alcoves, and makeshift seats carved directly into the dirt. This might have been a staging room, a planning point, or a rest station. And resting sounds so good right now. There's a canteen half buried in the clay. You pick it up. It's dented again, and then burned. You shake it. Dry. No luck. But someone left it here. Someone who might still be nearby. You lower yourself slowly into a squat, careful not to disturb the silence. And that's when you hear it again. A noise. Not mechanical, not animal. A human voice. Muffled. Brief. Close. You freeze. Press one ear to the dirt. Another voice follows. Closer now. Not urgent. Calm. And that's what rattles you. Calm voices mean confidence. They're not worried because they don't know you're here. You retreat back toward the entrance of the chamber, finding a narrow gap in the wall to hide behind. You listen. Count the seconds. 3 minutes pass. Then 5. No footsteps. No search party. You exhale just a little, but your heart's not buying it. The tunnels are alive now. Watching. Testing. And you're still only halfway in. One wrong decision, and you'll end up like the others who came down and didn't come back up. You stay tucked behind the wall, listening. Nothing. You slip back into the tunnel. Your movement is fluid now, practiced. Every shift of your weight is calculated. You're no longer just a soldier on a mission. You're part of the tunnel, absorbed by it. That's the only way to survive. You start to think in inches instead of yards, seconds instead of minutes. Then the tunnel shrinks again. This time, it's not just narrow, it's tight. You press forward on your stomach, chin dragging, elbows doing most of the work. Your boots scrape behind you like forgotten luggage. You're squeezing through a channel that feels less like a passage and more like a birth canal in reverse. Tight clay walls hug your ribs. Your nose nearly touches the ceiling. You can't turn your head. You can barely breathe. This isn't claustrophobia. This is a design feature. You remember what the older tunnel rats told you. If you're taller than 5'6", you don't belong down here. The Viet Cong designed these tunnels for themselves. Their average height was around 5'3". American soldiers? Typically 5'8", 5'9", even taller with gear. These tunnels were never meant for you. Not practically, not politically. Historians still argue whether the dimensions were tactical or just coincidental. Doesn't matter when your shoulders get jammed against the walls and your lungs start to panic. You grunt quietly, adjusting your weight. The tunnel shifts, not metaphorically, literally. Something behind the wall crumbles, and a cascade of dirt falls across your shoulder. Just a few inches, but enough to remind you, this place isn't stable. Not always. The soil might be iron-rich and concrete-hard when dry, but one shift, one tremor, one rainstorm above, and it all comes down. One tunnel rat reportedly suffocated after sneezing mid-crawl. That's not a joke. That's a cautionary tale told during training with deadpan certainty. You used to laugh. You're not laughing now. You inch forward slower than ever. Eventually, the tunnel widens enough for you to roll onto your side and gasp quietly. You press your back to the wall, just for a moment, and that's when you notice it. The ceiling. It's curved, not dug by hand, dug with technique. You reach up and tap. The surface rings faintly, not just clay, reinforced, possibly with wood or even scrap metal. The Viet Cong scavenge from everything. Crash planes, abandoned U.S. outposts, and old French colonial ruins. They turn trash into strategy. You wonder what else they built in here. Because this isn't just survival. This is architecture. You keep going, and suddenly, air. A breeze. Subtle. Whisper light. You follow it. Soon, the tunnel splits again. To the right, a narrow duct, barely wider than your arm. To the left, a gradual incline and the faintest smell of smoke. Not active smoke. Memory of smoke. Like a campfire that burned out an hour ago. You follow it. It leads you into another chamber. This one is strange. Taller. Domed. And at the far end, set into the floor, is a hole. A shallow pit, ringed with stones. You recognize it instantly. A Hong Kong stove. This is where they cooked. Unlike American troops who relied on MREs and hot rations from flying supply chains, the Viet Cong cooked underground. Carefully, precisely, and only when it rained or in the foggy dawn hours, when smoke could blend into the jungle mist. Vent shafts disguised as termite mounds would draw the smoke upward in soft, filtered columns. You've passed them before without even noticing. You crouch by the stove. A crusted pot still rests on the stone lip. Inside, a few grains of rice cling to the sides like survivors. The embers are warm. Someone was just here. Your stomach growls, out of instinct, not hunger. The scent of cooked rice triggers memories. Home. Breakfast. Quiet. It's a weapon down here. Comfort is a weapon. You freeze again, listening. Still nothing. But you feel the air shift again, like the tunnel is breathing. Like the stove exhaled one last time, and now the room is watching you. You inch forward toward the back wall. There's an alcove there, barely lit. Inside, you spot bundles, cloth rolls tied with string. One's been partially unwrapped, revealing dried fish. Another holds medical gauze. A third is heavier, possibly tools. Fringe theory? Some say Viet Cong engineers carried lockpicks and miniature explosives to collapse tunnels behind them if they were ever cornered. No one knows for sure. You eye the bundle and back away. Could be tools. Could be something else entirely. You check your watch. 15 minutes underground. Feels like 3 hours. You're still only in the upper levels. The control center, the real prize, will be deeper. But so will everything designed to stop you. You move toward a side tunnel. This one slopes downward again. You hesitate, just briefly. Then you remember what you're here for, and you crawl. The slope is subtle at first, but your knees tell you otherwise. You grip the walls for balance. The tunnel spirals slightly, and the air gets cooler. Not fresh, just stale in a different way. You pass another side chamber. Empty. A pile of mats in the corner. Sleeping quarters? Maybe. They're damp now. Abandoned. or just between shifts. And then, ahead, markings. Carve into the wall in neat, narrow strokes. Names? No, not letters. Numbers. Coordinates. Symbols. A map? Or just practice etchings. You lean in, brush the surface. The markings are fresh. Flakes of clay still cling to the groove edges. Someone's been down here. Recently. You pause. There's a strange sound behind the wall, almost like humming. No, not humming. Buzzing. A wasp nest? No, it's mechanical. Your ears tune in. It's faint, metallic, rhythmic. A generator. That means electricity. And electricity means someone's planning to stay a while. You move toward the sound, one breath at a time. Because the next room? It isn't for cooking. It isn't for sleeping. It's for something else entirely. The buzzing grows louder, vibrating through the dirt like a low, steady heartbeat. You follow it, cautious and slow, your blade still in hand. As the tunnel curves again, the ceiling lifts slightly, and that's always a warning sign. Bigger rooms mean higher stakes. You press forward and peek into the chamber ahead. A soft, orange glow spills across the dirt floor. There's a single lantern hanging from a hook, swaying ever so gently like it remembers a breeze that no longer exists. The room is larger than any you've seen so far. Almost 6 feet tall in the center and nearly double that in width. It's not luxurious, but by tunnel standards, it's a ballroom. In the corner, a bicycle leans against the wall. Not abandoned. Hooked to it is a gear system, clever, quiet, and unmistakable. A pedal-powered generator. The kind that provides just enough electricity to power a radio or a few dim lights. You've seen these setups in field reports, but rarely intact. Someone's still using this place. Your eyes scan the room. Surgical scissors on a flat board, glass jars filled with cloudy liquid, and a stained cot with a pillow that's seen too much. This is a medical bay. The floor here is firmer, more compact. No loose traps, just tools, human ones. You crouch near the jars. One holds bloody gauze suspended in formaldehyde. Another has an amputated toe, blackened at the edge. You quickly decide not to inspect the rest. But this much is clear, people are being patched up here. Recently, historians often debate how the Viet Cong managed such efficient underground hospitals with so few resources. Some argue they had outside help. Others claim it was pure ingenuity, honed by generations of necessity. Either way, you're standing in a monument to survival. You glance at the generator again. The pedals are still warm. Not hot, not cold. Used. Maybe 20 minutes ago. You press 2 fingers to the seat. Still slightly damp. Someone was pedaling this, charging the light, or the radio, or both. You duck behind the cot and listen. No footsteps, no voices, but the room feels watched. You move on, edging toward the back wall where another tunnel waits. This one is narrower again. Of course it is. Every step forward is a gamble. Room to breathe, exchange for the chance at information. You pause before crawling in. A soft tapping sound reaches you. So faint you almost miss it. Repetitive, muffled, like stone on stone or fingers brushing dirt. Someone's digging. That explains the generator. The lights. The warmth. This place isn't abandoned. It's growing. You move forward, quieter now, crawling like you're afraid of waking the tunnel itself. The tapping gets louder. Closer. You reach a bend in the tunnel and freeze. The noise is coming from the wall itself. Not the floor. Not the ceiling. The wall. You press your ear to it. CHK. 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 Pause. CHK. 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 Consistent. Timed. That means they're experienced. And close. Viet Cong tunnel engineers worked in teams. While one dug, others moved dirt in baskets, silently, methodically. The removed earth was disguised above ground, poured into rivers, buried in bomb craters, even spread out under foliage. You could fly 100 reconnaissance planes and never notice a new tunnel had been built. You keep moving. The tunnel angles downward again. Your knees scream quietly, but you ignore them. The air is thicker now, less circulation. That means you're deep. Level 2. If Level 1 is for emergency escape and storage, Level 2 is where the real business happens. Meetings, planning, long-term infrastructure, and that means you're getting close. You stop to check your bearings and nearly miss it. A string stretched across the floor. Thin, taut, almost invisible in the lantern glow. It's no more than an inch off the ground. You follow it to the wall, and sure enough, another can trap. This one's connected to a bell. A real one. Rusted, sure, but still capable of ringing like a funeral if you bump that line. You lean low and slide beneath it, cheek pressed to the cold clay. The sound of your breath, your heartbeat, your every thought gets pulled into the dirt. And then you're clear. But you've barely recovered when the tunnel opens again, just slightly. You kneel inside a new chamber. This one's different. It's quiet. Too quiet. You strain your ears. No digging now. No talking. Just the soft hum of your own nerves burning through adrenaline. Then you see something that makes your blood stop cold. A pile of American rations. You recognize the packaging immediately. Those green plastic meal pouches, the barely legible font stamped across them like they were printed in a hurry. One has a tear in it. A corner of beef stew clings to the opening. Still moist. Someone's been feeding a prisoner. You shift forward, inspecting the room. On one side, ropes. Thick, coarse. Frayed at the ends. On the other, a dented metal bucket. Water line still halfway up. You step back. You know exactly what this is. A holding room. A temporary cell. And judging by the rations, the prisoner is American. But not here. Not anymore. Or maybe not yet. You scan for signs of struggle. Nothing overt. Just where patterns in the dirt marks from pacing. From sitting. From maybe praying. You can't shake the thought. Someone's suffering happened here. In this silence. In this cold. You back away slowly. And that's when you notice a crude map scratched into the wall. It's faint. Incomplete. Like someone was working from memory. You lean in closer. Tunnel routes. Not detailed, but familiar. A circle, maybe a hub or command room, is marked not far from your position. Could it be? This could be the first sign of what you came for. You press your hand to the wall and steady your breath. Because if the map's right, you're just a few chambers away. And that means you're close. So close you can almost smell the ink on the orders. Almost hear the whispers of planning. Almost taste the fear of those who want it hidden. You move toward the exit tunnel, which slants down again, steeper than before. Your knees strain. Your palms press into damp dirt. Every inch now is earned with effort. And as the light fades behind you, the next chamber begins to glow. Just barely. Just enough to show you one thing. A chair. Centered. Facing the tunnel. Waiting. The chair doesn't move. Doesn't speak. But it has presence, like it knows you're coming. It's crudely built from bamboo, lashed together with twisted vines or cloth scraps. Positioned directly in the center of the chamber, it faces the tunnel opening like a throne of quiet defiance. You hesitate. A part of you wants to turn back. Not from fear, but because something about this room feels performative. Like it was set this way. You edge forward, knife still in hand, every footstep soft as breath. You circle the chair slowly. Nothing behind it. No traps. No hidden compartments. No wires. But the chair's legs? Sunken into the dirt. Heavy use. People sat here. And not to rest. On the wall behind the chair, there's a series of marks. Lines scratched into the clay. Clustered in groups of 5. Tally marks. 47 of them. You're standing in a judgment room. Historians still argue whether tunnel systems had official execution chambers or if those stories were battlefield exaggerations. But the atmosphere in this space tells you the truth. You don't need documents. You don't need approval. You feel in your skin. This room wasn't built for healing. It was built for decisions. You step back, carefully. Moving forward, the tunnel dips again. You slide into it like a diver entering deep water. This section is colder. Not damp cold, which is strange. The jungle above is sweltering, but this layer of earth steals warmth like a secret. Eventually, the tunnel bends sharply and then opens. What you find next isn't a trap. It's a lie. A propaganda room. Hand-painted posters hang from the walls, preserved surprisingly well for an underground space. Most are anti-American, naturally. One shows a caricature of a U.S. soldier bloated and red-faced, stumbling under a mountain of dollar signs. Another shows a Vietnamese woman shielding a child with one hand and planting a landmine with the other. You let out a half laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's familiar. Your side has posters, too. Cartoons, slogans, flag-waving recruitment films that play between baseball games. It's strange to see the war mirrored like this. A clay shelf holds leaflets, dozens of them, written in multiple languages. French, English, Vietnamese. Some urge surrender, others mock. A few seem designed to unsettle, like psychological warfare on paper. There's even an American newspaper clipping pinned to the wall, carefully laminated in plastic. You lean closer. It's an article praising a successful offensive, but you recognize the date and the photo. The offensive was a failure. The photo was staged. You remember the real story. You were in the region when it happened. You saw the body bags. And here, in the dirt, is there proof that your side lies, too. You sit down, briefly, letting your breath catch. You're not just crawling through tunnels. You're crawling through narratives. Above ground, the headlines tell one version. Below, you're living the edit. You remember something your commanding officer said back at camp. Our job is to break their networks, seize intel, and hold the line until politics catch up. But down here, politics feel like shadows cast by bodies no one remembers. You stand. Push on. The next chamber is half collapsed. You have to dig your way through a shoulder-height mound of clay and stone to get to the far side. It takes 4 minutes. Your arms ache. Your throat is dry. But you make it. And on the other side, peace. Momentary, but real. It's a sleeping chamber. Mats on the floor. Rolled blankets. Canteens. A single candle stub melted to a rock. Everything here is quiet. Untouched. You kneel beside a bedroll. Folded inside is a notebook, handwritten. You flip through it. Mostly Vietnamese. But you catch a word here and there. Lists. Schedules. Roster of names. One name repeats. Thuan. No rank. No last name. Just a line beside it. Possibly a chore or an assignment. You flip further. A page written entirely in English. One sentence. You do not know who we are because you never care to learn. You close the notebook. You hear voices again, faint, far away. Maybe another tunnel. Maybe another level. But they're out there. Not far. You press forward, climbing through another narrow shaft that loops around like a corkscrew. At one point, you almost get stuck. Your boot catches on a root embedded in the ceiling. You twist free. Keep going. And then, lantern light. This time brighter. This time steady. You've reached a main artery. A connecting hall. The dirt here is smoother. Packed from frequent use. You crawl forward another 30 feet. And then you see it. 2 figures. Viet Cong soldiers. One sitting. One standing. They haven't seen you yet. They're speaking softly. Calmly. Planning. Maybe even laughing. They have no idea you're just around the bend. No idea how close death just crawled. You retreat silently into a side tunnel. Because you're not ready yet. Not until you find what you came for. Not until you find a command center. It has to be close now. You can feel it. Because down here you don't need a compass. You follow the heat. You follow the voices. You follow the truth. The side tunnel you've slipped into is narrower, less used, and smells of dust that hasn't been disturbed in days. That's good. You need to disappear for a moment, blend into the earth like just another forgotten shadow. Your heartbeat slows, if only slightly. You press yourself flat against the wall and wait. The soldiers you just spotted aren't moving fast. Their conversation is unhurried, almost mundane. They're not expecting trouble down here, which means they have no idea how close you are. Eventually, their voices fade. Either they've moved on or shifted to a different tunnel. You listen a few moments longer, just to be sure. Then you start crawling again. Deeper. It's no longer about just finding a route forward. Now you're threading through a web. You've seen enough of the structure by now to sense the pattern. Food storage and escape hatches are near the top. Medical chambers, sleeping rooms, and staging points in the middle. So if there's going to be a command center, it'll be even lower. The tunnel narrows again, then opens to a small crawl space. At first, you think it's empty until you spot something wedged into the wall. A wooden box, Carved, worn, sealed with cloth around its edges. You reach for it. Inside are maps, rolled parchment, hand-drawn diagrams. You gently unroll one. Your chest tightens. This is it. A portion of the entire tunnel system, drawn in fading ink. Your current position is marked by a star. Below you, maybe 100 feet farther down, is a circle labeled C. You assume it's shorthand for command. No trap springs. No alarm sounds. You stow the map and move forward, fast but quiet. You pass through 2 more narrow shafts, twist around a sinkhole, and edge over a cracked bamboo platform before the tunnel dips again. This one's different. It spirals, built to confuse, disorient, and maybe, just maybe, to defend the most critical chamber of all. Your ears pop. Pressure shift. You're going deep now. Every inch forward feels like pushing into someone else's ribcage. And finally, there it is. A room unlike any other you've seen so far. Wider, reinforced with timber. The air here is cold, still, and sterile. There are maps pinned to the walls, chalk lines drawn across parchment, arrows and circles and dates. A radio rests in the corner, dormant for now. At the center, a crude table made from salvaged doors and sandbags. On top, documents. Unfolded. Fresh. You're in a command center, and it's empty. You freeze for several long seconds. Then you move, fast and low, toward the table. Your knife remains in hand, not out of fear but habit. You skim the papers. Battle plans. Supply routes. Projected troop movements. Then you see the one that makes your stomach drop. A red line stretching west, toward Saigon. It intersects with coordinates that match your unit's upcoming advance. This isn't just a strategy document. It's proof. Proof that the operation you're preparing for is walking straight into an ambush. You recognize the names, the call signs. This isn't theoretical. It's personal. Historians still debate how much of the Tet Offensive was anticipated or caught by surprise. But down here, looking at this paper, you know the truth somebody knew, and they let it happen. Your hands tremble as you roll up the documents and secure them beneath your belt. You have what you came for. But now, you have another problem. How to get out. And just as that thought crosses your mind, you hear footsteps, soft, measured, approaching the chamber from the opposite tunnel. You dive behind a wooden crate stacked against the wall. It's just high enough to hide your silhouette. Then, a shadow enters. A Viet Cong soldier. Rifle slung. Knife sheathed. His posture is relaxed. He doesn't expect company. He steps closer to the table, reaches for one of the maps you just took. It's missing. He hesitates. You don't. You lunge forward, knife first, and drive the blade low and fast. The man collapses with barely a grunt. His body thuds against the dirt. You roll him quickly, searching for anything useful. Papers, intel, or radio. What you find is worse. A photo. A young Vietnamese boy. The same man now dead beside you, only years younger, is standing between his parents, smiling. It's a birthday. There's a cake, half rice, half imagination. You stare at it. Too long. You blink hard, pocket the photo without even knowing why. You tell yourself this is war. You tell yourself he would have done the same to you. But none of those thoughts change the fact that he was just a kid once. You stand and take a breath that doesn't help. You need to move. Fast. You slip back into the tunnel, following the same spiral that brought you here. But the layout is different now. The tunnel feels tighter. Did it shift? Was it always like this? Hard to say when your thoughts are swimming in blood and paper. You climb, but the angle is steep. Your muscles ache. Your lungs scream. You're not just fighting enemies now. You're fighting the tunnel itself. You reach a fork and hesitate. Left or right? You check the map you stole. It's not helpful here. Too vague, too old. You have to trust your memory. You pick right. Always right. It feels like the kind of tunnel someone would use to move quickly, to escape. And as you press forward, a faint smell reaches you. Not smoke, not blood, but sweat. Someone's ahead. You slow down. Not because you want to, but because you have to. That smell of sweat, subtle and recent, means someone is nearby. Probably more than one. The tunnel's acoustics play tricks on your ears. Every shuffle of dirt sounds like a drumbeat. Every exhale bounces back like a whisper. You flatten against the wall and listen. There's a faint echo. A voice, two, maybe three, carried from around a corner. Too far to hear words, but close enough that you can sense the rhythm of their exchange. You crouch lower. Silence is your ally now. Not the dramatic movie kind, just raw, focused quiet. The kind that makes your heartbeat feel rude. Then movement. Soft, measured. A rustle of cloth. The distinct scuff of a boot heel. You're not alone in this tunnel anymore. You edge backward, slowly, until you spot another side shaft. A drainage crawl space? A maintenance offshoot? Doesn't matter. It's small and dark and just big enough to hide in. You slip inside and pull yourself into the shadows. And you wait. Moments later, a figure passes by. A Viet Cong soldier. Rifle across his back. Not in a hurry. He's checking the tunnels. Routine patrol? Possibly. Maybe even responding to the dead man you left behind in the command room. You hold your breath. He doesn't stop. Doesn't turn. Just vanishes around the next bend. You count to 20. Then keep moving. The tunnel now slopes downward again, and you realize something odd. The air is warmer here. Not stifling like the upper levels, but gently humid. It clings to your face. You round the next corner and find yourself in yet another chamber. This one, though, is different. It's a workshop. Piles of broken weapons line the dirt shelves. Rifles stripped for parts. Knives with wrapped handles. Even a few disassembled grenades. Hanging from the wall is a carefully bent bicycle wheel rigged with what looks like a trigger mechanism. You step closer. It's a makeshift spring trap. Ingeniously simple. Pull the line, release the latch, and a bamboo stake snaps forward like a mousetrap. Silent. Lethal. Historians still argue whether the Viet Cong invented these underground or adapted them from earlier conflicts. Some believe they were based on French colonial snares, others on ancient hunting techniques. Either way, you're staring at battlefield engineering in its purest form. Deadly, resourceful, recycled. You kneel beside the shelf. There's a stack of notes. Diagrams. All in Vietnamese. You flip through them and find something you didn't expect. Measurements. Exact ones. Tunnel widths. Chamber angles. Trap dimensions. This isn't improvisation. This is math. Architecture. The tunnel network is evolving. You realize now, this isn't just a hidden defense system. It's a factory, a lab, a nerve center for innovation. You wonder how many other tunnels like this exist. How many are being carved even now under rice paddies and American boots? You pocket one of the diagrams. Could be useful. Could be proof. Then something shifts overhead. Not an explosion. Not footsteps. Just a sound. A scraping. A distant rhythmic thump. Digging. Again. You glance up toward the ceiling. A narrow crack in the dirt lets in a trickle of filtered air. Above, someone is hauling out dirt. Probably with baskets or sacks. That sound, that scrape drag dump rhythm, means the tunnel is growing again. And if they're digging, then the exit routes you memorized on your way, it might already be blocked. No time to rest. You slip out of the chamber and head toward the next shaft. You crawl through what feels like a ribbed pipe, reinforced with cut bamboo. The structure groans slightly as you pass. That's normal. That's just the tunnel breathing with you. Then you feel it. A sudden drop in the floor. No slope. No warning. Just a sharp 2-foot drop. You slide into it and land hard, hands catching you in the dirt. Pain flares up your wrist. You wince. Could be a sprain. Nothing's broken. You keep moving. This lower path is darker than the others. No vents. No light. You feel the walls as you crawl. Smooth, intentional. This tunnel wasn't dug in a hurry. It was carved with care. The dirt is packed so tightly it feels like brick. A faint smell of metal lingers in the air. That's when you see the glow. Faint, greenish. Just ahead. You move toward it. It's not a lantern. It's a glow stick. An American one. Cracked and wedged into the wall, probably hours ago. You touch it. Still cold. Recently used. That means you're not the first soldier down here today. And whoever dropped that light, they might still be alive. You push faster now, ignoring the scrape of the floor, the burn in your thighs. And then, another chamber. Low ceiling. Earthen walls. A figure in the corner. hanging from a bamboo crossbar by their arms. Slump forward, an American uniform. You rush forward and grab his shoulder. He twitches, barely, alive. Hey, you whisper, shaking him lightly. I'm getting you out. He stirs, lifts his head. His lips are cracked, his eyes unfocused. You cut the ropes. He drops like a rag doll, but doesn't cry out. That tells you more than words could. He's been down here a long time. You sling his arm over your shoulder. He's light, too light. As you check the chamber for anything useful, water, weapons, maps, you notice something scribbled on the wall behind where he hung. A single word, in chalk, exit, and an arrow. You feel a strange jolt of hope, like the earth itself just exhaled for you. You help the soldier to his feet. His legs barely work, but he manages a step, then another. The arrow points to a tunnel just behind the bamboo. You enter it together, moving slow, limbs aching, lungs burning. And ahead, faintly, unbelievably, you smell fresh air. You brace the rescued soldier as you both crawl toward the scent. The tunnel narrows again. Of course it does. And his limp body makes everything harder. His breathing is shallow, uneven, but steady. That's something. He mumbles something under his breath. You can't make it out. It might be English. Might be a fever dream. Either way, you whisper back, "We're getting out." The passage tilts upward, just slightly. Every inch you climb feels like dragging dead weight uphill. Dirt sticks to your hands like clay. Your muscles shake. But then, just as your fingers catch on another stone outcropping, you hear something new. Not voices. Not digging. Metal. Clinking. Clicking. You freeze. Press your ear to the tunnel wall. There it is again. A soft rustle of string. Then, ting, 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 ting. Cans. You sigh. Not in frustration, but recognition. You've stumbled into a trap room. And this one? It's big. You crawl forward just enough to peer inside. The chamber is low and wide, reinforced at the corners with wooden braces. On the ground, scattered in deliberate disarray, are dozens, maybe hundreds, of repurposed tin cans. Some are stacked into precarious towers. Others are hung on threads tied to tripwires, like wind chimes in hell. And in the corner, you spot the real threat. A stack of grenades. They are rigged to the cans. If even one of those tripwires is yanked, game over. This isn't a room. It's a decision. Historians still argue whether these rooms were meant to kill or just deter. Some say they were psychological weapons, to slow soldiers down, to make them second-guess every step. Others argue they were used specifically when the Viet Cong needed time to escape. Either way, you're here now, and there's no going around. You help the soldier lie flat. Whisper instructions in his ear. Stay still. I'll clear a path. He nods once, his head drooping like a withered flower. You scan the floor. Look for gaps. Safe routes. And then you start moving. You press your body flat to the earth, slithering through a maze of string and steel. Your breath becomes a countdown. Your heartbeat ticks louder than any alarm. Your hand brushes a thread. It tenses, but doesn't snap. You wait. Listen. No sound. You exhale through your nose. You shift slightly. You keep going. 15 feet later, you reach the far side. Now comes the hard part. Getting him through. You retrace your path, barely brushing the same ground. You reach him, grab his wrist. Stay flat. You whisper. Just slide. You lead him, inch by inch, like pulling a fragile sled across a minefield. His boot grazes a can. It wobbles, but doesn't fall. You both freeze. The room seems to hold its breath with you. Then, silence again. You make it. Barely. You exit the trap room into another shaft. Your fingers shake as you crawl. Not from fear, from adrenaline burnout. You don't get to celebrate, because this tunnel opens into another choice. Two paths. Left, steep, with claw marks in the date, signs of people dragging themselves upward. Right, smoother, wider, fewer signs of struggle. That makes it worse. You hesitate, then move left. Sometimes the harder path is the right one. The soldier groans but follows. You help him where you can, pushing and pulling as needed. The incline burns your thighs. Your chest tightens. Then the air shifts again. Cooler. Damp. You know what that means. Water. You push forward and the tunnel opens into a narrow room with a well in the center. Just a hole in the dirt, ringed with stones and darkness. You peek over the edge. No bottom in sight. But you smell it. Fresh water. This is no accident. The Viet Cong built water wells inside the lowest parts of their tunnel systems to survive long-term sieges. No trips to the surface. No exposure. Just silence and self-reliance. You lower the soldier beside the well. Pull your canteen. It's empty. Of course it is. You find a vine-twine pail nearby and lower it slowly into the dark. It comes back damp, enough for a sip. You offer it to him. He drinks in ragged gulps, then blinks like a man waking from a month-long nightmare. You drink too. It tastes like clay and survival. You rest for only a moment, just long enough to feel your pulse slow from machine gun to slow drumbeat. Then, movement. Not near you. Behind you. In the tunnel you just crawled through. Voices. Viet Cong close. Not searching. Following. They know. Someone found the body. Or the missing plans. Or the echo of your breath in a trap room that should have been untouched. Either way, you're out of time. You grab the soldier's arm and start moving again. Faster this time. Less cautious. Just fast enough to get ahead. You crawl until the tunnel shifts again. An upward curve, steep and sudden. A possible exit. You climb. He climbs. It's not graceful. It's desperate. You reach the top, and it's blocked. A bamboo hatch. You press against it. Locked. You slam once. Twice. Crack. It splits. You push it open. Sunlight floods in. You shove the soldier through. Then climb after him. You outside. Not safe. Not yet. But outside. And then, shouts. From the trees. Behind you. They've been spotted. Gunfire cracks. Bullets rip through leaves. You don't look back. You run. Branches whip your face. Your legs burn. The soldier stumbles. You drag him. And in the distance, a trail of smoke. A campfire. A signal. Hope. You don't stop. The soldier behind you stumbles again, and again you haul him forward. Each step is a decision between falling and flying. The jungle slaps at your face, roots twist underfoot, and bullets still crackle behind like angry insects. You don't dare turn around. You don't need to. You can feel them closing in. Branches tear across your arms, slicing tiny lines that sting but don't slow you. Your focus narrows to a single point, that distant pillar of smoke. If you can reach it, just reach it. This won't all have been for nothing. You spot a dry creek bed ahead, a shallow ditch lined with rocks and fallen leaves. It offers a bit of cover, at least more than this open slope. You drag the soldier down into it, press his body low, and lie flat beside him. Your chest heaves. His eyes are barely open. You whisper, "We're almost there." He doesn't respond, but his hand grips yours weakly. That's enough. You peek over the edge. No movement in the trees yet, but the shouting is getting louder. You know they're fanning out, surrounding, calculating. You need a new plan. Fast. And then your fingers brush something half buried in the dirt beside you. A box. You dig quickly and uncover an old ammo crate, the kind left behind when troops retreat in a hurry. You pry it open. Inside, flares, ration bars, and, miracle of miracles, 2 smoke grenades. One red, one white. You pocket the red one and pull the pin on the white. It hisses, then explodes into a cloud of thick, chalky smoke. You grab the soldier and move. The cover won't last long. The smoke buys you seconds, not minutes. You break into the trees again, angling toward the campfire smoke. Now closer. Close enough you can almost hear the distant crackle of the flame. Or maybe that's just the sound of your lungs combusting. And then, finally you see it. A perimeter. A line of defensive wire. Camouflage tents. A U.S. flag half hanging from a jungle pole. You scream. Not words, just a sound, raw, desperate, and primal. Someone hears. A soldier appears, weapon raised. Friendly, you gasp, nearly collapsing. 2 coming in. More figures emerge. Guns lower. Arms lift. You're pulled forward. The rescued soldier is taken from you, lowered gently to the ground. Medics swarm. You collapse to your knees. They ask questions. Who are you? Where did you come from? Are you injured? You nod. To everything. You don't speak. Not yet. Because something else is eating at you. Not just the mission. Not the chase. Not even the pain. It's what you saw down there. What you felt. That the war you thought you understood wasn't what it seemed. That the enemy wasn't just hiding under the earth. They were living there. Planning. Surviving. Human. And now, your next job is harder. Explaining what you saw without getting laughed out of the tent. Because no map can explain the fear that oozes from the walls of those tunnels. No diagram captures the eyes of a 16-year-old boy holding a knife and a picture of his family. No report will describe the execution chair sitting like a throne in a silent chamber of dirt. And historians? They'll argue forever about what happened. But you were there, and it happened. You spend the next hours in a medic tent. Someone hands you water. Another injects something into your arm. A few words become clear. Infection, rest, report back. Then someone you recognize, Lieutenant Kessler, steps in. He's stone-faced, trying not to look impressed. You got the intel? You nod, then reach under your belt and hand him the folded documents. They're damp but legible. He reads the top page, then his eyes go wide. This changes everything. You don't answer. You're already somewhere else. Back in the tunnels. Feeling the clay grind into your fingernails. Watching the ceiling for snakes. Listening to silence that wasn't quite empty. And you remember the map you tucked into your jacket, one you haven't turned in yet. You reach into your chest pocket. Still there. But something else falls out. The photo. The boy. His family. A paper memory of someone you had to kill. You pick it up slowly. Wipe the dirt from the corner. No one saw it fall. You slip it back into your pocket. You don't know why you're keeping it. Maybe so you don't forget. Because the truth is, a tunnel doesn't end just because you climb out of it. Some tunnels stay with you. Above ground. In daylight. At night. Forever. You don't sleep that night. Even though your cot's clean, your boots are off, and someone's replaced the jungle heat with a humming fan. Your body doesn't get the message. You close your eyes and still see the inside of a tunnel. Not metaphorically, literally. That choking darkness. The way shadows moved like they knew you were there. Every blink is a memory. Every twitch is a tripwire. A medic swings by to check your vitals. She asks if you're in pain. You say no. You lie. The physical pain, at least, feels manageable. It's the other thing, that sensation that your brain is still underground, crawling through clay, even while your body lies above it. You're not alone in that. Every tunnel rat you've ever met talks about the same thing. Some never get rid of it. Others cope in stranger ways. One guy used to sleep under his bunk instead of in it. Another kept his boots filled with sand just to feel grounded. You stare at the tent ceiling and wonder what your method will be. When a morning finally arrives, a briefing is called. They want a full debrief. Everyone is gathered. Officers, analysts, even some guys from Intel wearing civilian shirts and expressions that say they haven't been anywhere near a tunnel in their lives. You give them everything, maps, timelines, enemy positions. The documents you retrieved are gold. One even outlines a multi-pronged ambush targeting your own unit's next advance. The brass listens. Eyes widen. Jaws tighten. Kessler looks like someone just handed him a miracle and a migraine in the same envelope. This could save hundreds, he says. Could, not will. Because nothing is certain in this war. Not even survival. And then the big question comes. How did you make it out alive? You pause. You could say luck. You could say instinct. You could even credit the knife, your father's, still stained with dirt and memory. But what you say instead is simple. I kept moving. There's a long silence after that. No one knows what to say. Because no one in this room, aside from you, has been down there. Not really. They've read about it. Seen footage. But it's different when you've crawled through it. When you've heard someone digging 5 feet from your head and had to guess whether they were coming toward you or away. Eventually, they dismiss you. You're told you'll be rotated out for a week. Rest. Recovery. You nod, but you know it won't help. Not really. On your way out of the tent, someone slips you a cigarette. You don't smoke, but you pocket it anyway. Maybe later. Back at your cot, the rescued soldier is sleeping. He doesn't move much, barely stirs, but the nurses say he's stabilized. He hasn't spoken yet. Just drank water. Nodded when asked if he was okay. You sit next to him for a minute. You wonder what he saw down there. What he felt. If he remembers the bamboo. Or the pit. Or the chair. Or the way the air changed when you reached level 2. You reach into your pocket. The photo is still there. The Vietnamese boy and his family. You turn it over this time. There's writing on the back. It's in Vietnamese, but one phrase repeats. You can't read the rest, but you know what that repetition means. A name. Thuan. The same name you saw scratched into the notebook down below. It hits you then, not like a bullet, more like a realization settling into your bones. You didn't just kill a soldier. You killed someone whose life had structure, family, birthdays. And you know, that if the roles were reversed, he might have shown you the same mercy. Or maybe none at all. It doesn't matter now, because war doesn't care about symmetry, only about results. You tuck the photo back into your pocket, not out of guilt, not exactly, but maybe so you don't forget that even in war, the enemy is still someone. Not a shadow, not a number, a person. The next day, you're summoned again, this time by someone from Intel. One of the clean shirt types who doesn't use your name, just your file number. He wants more. More diagrams. More guesses. More insights. He's not interested in the traps or the fear or the part where you almost died dragging someone out of hell. He just wants maps. You give him what you can. Then you leave. Because here's the truth. The deeper you go in this war, the more you realize it's not about winning. It's about outlasting. You survive one tunnel. Then the next. Then the next. Not because you're brave, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't keep moving. You return to your cot. You sleep in shifts. You keep your boots on. You dream of bamboo, of breathing in dirt, of silence that waits like a trap just beyond the next bend. You wake to thunder, or at least that's what your brain thinks it is. For half a second, your body tenses, expecting the roof to shake and the tunnel to collapse. But you're not underground anymore. You're in a tent, in a base, safe, mostly. The sound is just distant artillery echoing from miles away. Nothing to worry about. Still, your hands are already curled into fists, and you're halfway off the cot before you even open your eyes. Old habits. You sit up slowly, stretching muscles that feel like they aged 10 years in 2 days. You glance around the tent. The soldier you rescued is gone. Moved to a different area, apparently. Somewhere safer. You feel a flicker of relief. That's one person who made it out. And then someone calls your name. Not your rank. Not your file number. Your actual name. It's Kessler. He's standing in the entryway. Boots muddy. Face unreadable. Come with me, he says. You don't ask questions. You just follow. He leads you across the compound. Past the mess tent. Past the helipad. Into the intelligence bunker, where 2 more officers and a radio tech are waiting. We intercepted chatter last night, Kessler says, folding his arms. Something big is coming. He looks at you like you already know. You do. The documents you pulled, maps, troop shifts, strategic supply routes. They were all pieces of a larger plan. A huge one, and now it's unfolding. The Tet Offensive. Historians still debate whether American leadership had any idea how coordinated it would be. Some say they were warned. Others believe it was a complete surprise. But you've seen it coming from under the earth. You sit down at the map table. Your heart's hammering, not from fear, but from urgency. There's a red marker near Saigon, then another near Hue, then Da Nang, all glowing like warning lights on a control panel that's about to overload. They're not just attacking a few places, you whisper. They're attacking everywhere. The intel officers nod grimly. We believe you confirmed their central command. What we don't know is whether they're already executing this. You pull the hand-drawn map from your chest pocket, the one marked with coordinates and escape tunnels, the one you didn't turn in yet. You unfold it, flatten it, and place it on the table. This is where they planned it. And this, you circle a point with your finger, is where they're stockpiling the gear. Silence. Then motion. Orders get barked. Radios click on. Plans change. Immediately. You sit back, watching the wheels turn. You should feel proud. But something feels off. Because as you look down at the map, your eyes drift to the edge where the enemy tunnels end. And you wonder, how many more are still unmarked? How many didn't you find? You leave the bunker without speaking. Out in the yard, soldiers are already mobilizing. Packing gear, tightening boots, checking weapons. No one looks scared. Everyone looks tired, like they've been fighting a fire for years, and someone just said the wind's shifting direction. You head toward your cot to grab your gear. You're not ordered out yet, but you know how this goes. If the tunnel maps are correct, and they are, then command's about to send a unit back in, probably within hours. And they'll need someone who knows the tunnels. Guess who that is? On your way, you pass a radio operator shouting coordinates. You catch a few phrases: Mekong sector, countermeasure, light infantry. You tune it out. You've got your own countermeasure to prepare. You grab your knife, not your gun. That comes later. The knife, your father's, is heavier than you remember. You test the edge, still sharp. Outside, the rain begins. Soft, steady. And just like that, the ground remembers. The tunnels below drink it in. The walls moisten. The clay reshapes. Some chambers will collapse tonight. Others will flood. New ones will form. That's how it works down there. The tunnels aren't fixed. They're alive. They grow, shift, seal themselves, even breathe. You sit under the tent's flap and let the rain hit your boots. It soaks in cool and real. You wonder what it's like down there right now. Are the command chambers empty? Are new traps being set? Is another tunnel rat from the other side sliding on his stomach with a knife just like yours? You think again of the photo. Fwan, that name burned into your memory. That boy, you didn't kill an idea. You killed a person. And that's what nobody tells you about surviving. It's not just about breathing air again. It's about carrying everything you found in the dark back into the light. Even when it hurts. Even when no one asks you to. You're back underground. You knew it was coming. You just didn't expect it to happen so soon. 1 hour after turning in the last of the maps, Command decided to send a small recon team back into the tunnels. Your tunnels. Only this time, you're not going alone. There are 3 others. Carter, the radio guy. Young, still smells like coffee and soap. Morales, a demolitions expert with hands too calm for someone who builds explosions. And Smitty, a wiry sergeant who doesn't talk much but walks like he's already died twice and came back unimpressed. You all lower yourselves into the entry hatch before dawn. Rain still falling above. You can hear it tapping faintly against the jungle canopy. The first level of the tunnel system feels familiar. Too familiar. The scent of wet clay. The smooth curve of the walls. Even the way the air hums against your ears. It's like the tunnel remembers you. Carter stumbles on a root just 10 feet in. You hiss at him to quiet down. He nods, embarrassed. You start crawling. This time, there's no panic in your chest. No pounding fear. Just a slow, steady readiness. You're not here to fight. You're here to confirm. A report came in that something's changed down here. That the tunnel you mapped has new branches. New exits. Maybe even new traps. You believe it. Tunnels like these evolve faster than cities. In the first chamber, Morales stops to inspect the walls. He pulls a small, cylindrical device from his pack, a tunnel sensor. It picks up micro-vibrations, tells you if someone's digging nearby. The needle twitches. Activity, he whispers. 5 meters ahead. You nod once. The 4 of you push forward. You reach the first fork, the one you chose right instead of left. You pause. The map never showed what was down the left. Now, you're going to find out. The left tunnel is narrower, slicker. It looks freshly carved. The walls haven't hardened yet, and the clay comes off under your palms like warm wax. Definitely new. And then you hear it. Digging. Close. Carter's eyes go wide. He reaches for the radio strapped to his back, but you shake your head. No chatter down here. Not unless it's life or death. You push forward instead. A few feet later, the tunnel opens. Not into a room, but into a shaft. Vertical. There's a rope hanging down, slick with dirt. It swings gently, like someone just used it. You look up. No light. You look down. A faint glow. Command chamber? Carter mouths. You nod again, and you start to descend. Hand over hand. Quiet as breath. You reach the bottom first. It's another room. Large. Reinforced with wood beams and stone bracing. This isn't temporary. This is a hub. And in the center, a fire pit. Still warm. Beside it, crates, fresh supplies. Rice, bandages, ammo. Not much. Just enough for a few days. You spot documents, no maps this time. Instead, handwritten lists, names, code words, schedules. You grab them quickly, fold them into your vest. Smitty points to the far wall. More symbols. Some you recognize from before. When you don't, a spiral with a line through it. You stare. It looks ceremonial. Historians still debate whether the Viet Cong incorporated spiritual symbols into their tunnel markings. Some claim it was a way to bless new chambers. Others say it was psychological warfare, symbols meant to confuse, unnerve. Whatever it is, the soldiers in this room believed in it, because just below the symbol, carved into the clay with something sharp, are two words. Chung Tua Cho. You don't speak fluent Vietnamese, but you know enough to translate. We wait. You stare at the words longer than you should. Carter whispers, "What do they mean?" You don't answer. Not yet, because suddenly something shifts. A whisper of movement. Behind you. You spin. A figure darts down a side tunnel. Small. Fast. No weapon drawn. You don't think. You follow. Morales hisses something. Don't. But it's too late. You're already gone. The side tunnel is slick and tight. It dips and climbs in erratic turns. It's not part of any map. It's new. Then light. You emerge into a tiny room, just tall enough to stand. And at the far end, a boy, no older than 13. Skinny, filthy, eyes wide with terror. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He just stares. You freeze. He doesn't run, doesn't move. You step forward. "Who are you?" You whisper, though you know he won't answer. He backs against the wall. Your knife is still in your hand. And now, you realize you look like the monster. The boy reaches into his shirt. You flinch, blade raised. But all he pulls out is a photo. Cracked. Folded. He holds it up to you like it's proof of something. You step closer. It's the same photo. The same boy. Fwan. You stare at it. And you finally get it. This is his brother. Or his cousin. Or someone who knew him. Loved him. And now you are the shadow in his tunnel. You lower your knife. Your hand is shaking. And then, behind you, footsteps. Smitty. Morales. Carter. The boy sees them and bolts down another shaft before anyone can react. You don't chase him. You just let him go. Because some ghosts are meant to stay buried. And some tunnels are not meant to be cleared. Not completely. Not ever. You stare at the empty tunnel for a long moment, letting the silence reclaim the space where the boy had stood. Behind you, the others say nothing. Morales breaks it first. He had no weapon. "I know," you say. "There's nothing else to add. Nothing that would make sense above ground. And certainly not here." Smitty finally grunts and turns away. Carter lingers for a second, then follows. You all make your way back to the central hub, the room where the rope still dangles, where supplies sit untouched, and that symbol, spiral and slash, still stares back from the wall like a silent oath. You pause before the rope. That boy wasn't part of any official plan. He wasn't mentioned in any document. But he was here, meaning there are still people in this system. Still lives intersecting in these tunnels. And some of them, they don't carry rifles. They carry memories. You ascend one by one, back through the shaft, back through the original passage. You retrace every turn, every crawl space. This time, the tunnel feels different. Not more dangerous, just heavier. Like it's grown old in the last few hours. Maybe you have, too. On the way up, you pass the site of the old trap room. Some of the tin cans are gone. The rest have been rearranged. That's no accident. Someone's been here. Recently. They're adapting again. Historians sometimes compare these tunnel systems to a living organism, growing, breathing, defending itself. You always thought that was poetic nonsense. Now, you're not so sure. Eventually, daylight breaks through the bamboo slats above. You reach the exit shaft and climb fast, your hands slick with mud, boots dragging against wet roots. You burst out into the jungle air, lungs filling with breath you didn't realize you'd been rationing. Carter and Morales follow. Then Smitty. Everyone's out. Everyone's breathing. No one's talking. You're back at the surface, but the tunnel's still inside you. That's the secret no one tells you. You carry it. The dirt, the silence, the faces. Back at the base, you report what you found. The supply cache, the altered tunnels, the evidence of ongoing operations. But you don't mention the boy. Not in the official report. Some truths aren't for paper. They're for remembering. Later that night, Kessler finds you. He's holding a folder, your folder, and flips it open like it contains something more than ink. "You okay?" he asks. It's not small talk. You look at him. "I don't know." He nods like that's the right answer. Then he says, "There's talk of pulling you back, rotating you out." You blink. "Why?" "You've been in longer than most. And not many make it back from where you've been." You think about that and realize you're not ready to leave. Not yet. There's still more you understand now. Things that others need to hear. They need to know how this war works, you say. Kessler shrugs. They don't want to know. They want to win. He leaves you with that. You stay sitting at the edge of camp as the sun sets. The sky turns to gold, then purple, then gray. The trees rustle like the jungle has its own language, and maybe it does. As darkness returns, your mind drifts back to the tunnels, to the command room, to the execution chair, to the soft thrum of a generator powered by pedal and sweat, and to the boy, not the one you killed, the one you let live. You hope he remembers that part. You hope that, somewhere down the line, it matters. Eventually, you return to your cot. You lie down, boots still on, and as sleep drags at your eyelids, your hand closes around something in your pocket. The photo. Juan's photo. You unfold it. Look at it one last time. Then you slide it under your pillow. Somewhere between forgiveness and memory. And you sleep. Not deep. Not long. But enough. Dawn comes soft, but you don't feel it. You're already awake, staring at the canvas above your cot, listening to the rhythm of the bass slowly reassembling itself. Boots hit gravel, metal clinks against metal, and generators cough to life. But underneath all that sound, there's something else. A hum. Not from the machines, but from you. That familiar pressure in your chest. The one that started in the tunnels and never quite left. It's not panic. It's not fear. It's readiness. You swing your legs off the cot. The photo slides down your chest. You catch it gently. Fold it. No ceremony. No words. Just routine now. Like brushing dirt off your uniform. Outside, the jungle looks washed. Like the night rain rinsed the war from the leaves. But of course it didn't. That war is still out there. Still under the ground. Still running deeper than maps know. You're told your rotation is coming. You'll be reassigned further north, maybe out of tunnel range. Maybe not. Command hasn't decided. And maybe it doesn't matter. Because once you've been under, really under, the war is everywhere. Every room has a trapdoor. Every silence is suspect. Every shadow has breath. Carter stops by before shipping out. He's got a fresh bandage on his forearm and eyes that don't blink as much anymore. You ask him how he's doing. He shrugs. You know. You nod. Because you do. Smitty doesn't say goodbye. He never would. But he leaves something folded on your cot later that day. A sketch of a chamber with the spiral symbol. Done in charcoal on the back of a ration wrapper. Below it, he wrote, "Some things ain't just tunnels." No name. Just that. You keep it. Later, you meet Morales near the mess tent. He's still trying to make sense of what he saw. "Do you think the tunnels go farther than we thought?" You look at him. They always did. He doesn't argue. Because that's the final lesson. The Viet Cong didn't just dig tunnels. They became them. Every bend a mystery. Every trap a riddle. Every level a layer of a story no textbook has the nerve to tell. Not really. You don't pack much. Your gear's already light. But you do take two things with you. The photo and the sketch. One in your chest pocket. One in your notebook. Together, they remind you what you almost forgot. That war isn't just maps and kills and victories. It's people. On both sides. Some born into guns. Others into mud. All crawling towards something they believe in, even if it kills them. That night, you sit on the edge of the jungle. No weapon in hand. No radio crackling. Just you. And the soil beneath your boots. And you think, maybe the war will end someday. Maybe the tunnels will collapse. Maybe they'll be sealed forever. But even then, the story will stay buried. Waiting, just like they wrote on that chamber wall. We wait. And now, the air softens. The jungle falls quiet. And the tunnels, with all their secrets and shadows, begin to drift gently from your thoughts. You're back above ground now. You can feel the breeze again. Hear the hush of leaves brushing against each other like pages turning. You made it out. Not just alive, but changed. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight lift, even if just for tonight. Because sometimes, survival isn't about heroics. It's about remembering what lies beneath, without letting it swallow you whole. You did that. You crawled through fear, past ghosts and truth and dirt, and came out carrying something that still matters. Understanding. So now, as your head settles deeper into your pillow, and the world softens around the edges, know this. There's nothing else you need to do. Nowhere else you need to be. The war for tonight has ended. You're safe. You're home. You're whole. Rest easy. Drift slow. And let the earth be still. You've earned it.